tonight I'd like you to settle in gently, take a slow breath in, and let it go. There is nothing urgent waiting for you. No loud events, no sudden turns. Just a soft journey into the warm lands of West Africa. Many centuries ago, as you rest, imagine golden sunlight stretching across wide savannas. Tall grasses sway slowly in the breeze in the distance. A broad river glides quietly over smooth earth. This is the Niger River, steady, patient, ancient. Long before modern cities and borders. Before airplanes crossed the sky. There was a great empire here. It was called Mali, but tonight we are not rushing into kings or grand stories. Instead, we begin gently with the land itself. The Mali Empire began around the 13th century in what is now West Africa. The region was warm and open, dotted with small villages made of sun-dried mud bricks. The buildings blended softly into the earth, almost the same color as the soil beneath them. Life here moved at a slow and steady rhythm. In the early morning, the air would be cool. Farmers would step outside their homes. Carrying simple wooden tools, they grew millet, sorghum, and rice near the riverbanks. The soil was rich, and the Niger River gave life to everything around it. Children would help carry water in clay pots balanced carefully on their heads. Women prepared morning meals over small cooking fires. The smell of grain porridge would rise into the soft dawn air. There was no rush in these villages. People lived in close communities. Families shared work, food, and stories. Evenings were quiet. After the sun dipped below the horizon, elders would sit outside and speak softly about ancestors, seasons, and the stars above. This was the world before Mali became powerful, before gold caravans crossed deserts, before great cities like Timbuktu became centers of learning. At first, it was simply land, river, and people living gently with both. The people of this region belonged mostly to the Mand culture. They valued community, respect, and memory. History was not written in books at first. It was carried in voices by storytellers known as griots. The griots spoke slowly and carefully, remembering generations of family lines and quiet victories. Their words flowed like the river itself. And somewhere in this calm landscape, a small kingdom began to grow. It did not happen loudly. It did not happen suddenly. It grew the way a tree grows, slowly, season by season, and as you relax tonight, we will let that tree grow gently before us. Take another slow breath. The sun has risen a little higher now over the wide lands of West Africa. The grasses shimmer softly, and the Niger River continues its quiet journey. In one of the Mand villages, many centuries ago, a child was born into a noble family. His name, we are told through the voices of the griots, was Sundiata. But tonight we will not rush into legends of battle or loud victories. Instead, we imagine him as a quiet child in a warm courtyard made of packed earth. The walls around him are smooth and sun-baked. The air smells faintly of dust and cooking grain. Chickens wander lazily nearby. As a young boy, Sundiata did not appear strong. In fact, stories say he struggled to walk when other children were already running. His mother would sit beside him in the evenings, speaking gently, encouraging him in soft tones. There was no hurry. In Mand culture was a virtue. A child grew in their own time, like crops in the field. Some sprouted quickly, others took longer beneath the soil before pushing toward the sun. Around the village, daily life continued as it always had. Blacksmiths tapped carefully at iron tools. The rhythm of metal against stone was steady and unhurried. Farmers worked their plots near the riverbanks. Women wove cotton into cloth dyed deep indigo with natural plants. Trade caravans passed occasionally at the edge of the region. Long lines of camels carrying salt from the Sahara. The desert to the north was vast and silent. The salt they brought was precious, just as valuable as gold in these lands. Even as a child, Sundiata would have heard travellers speaking of distant towns and quiet markets. He would have listened to griots recount family histories stretching back generations. The past lived in sound, carried in calm, measured voices beneath the evening sky. The Mand people believed leadership required wisdom, not only strength. A ruler was expected to care for the land and for the people, like a gardener tending crops. As Sundiata grew older, slowly and in his own time, something steady began to awaken within him. Not loud ambition, not fiery anger, but quiet determination. There is something deeply comforting about stories of slow beginnings. Empires do not always rise with thunder. Sometimes they begin with a child learning to stand. And somewhere in the warm hush of those early years, as dust drifted through sunlight and river water shimmered gently in the distance, the foundations of the Mali Empire were quietly forming. Not in noise, but in patience. The evening air in West Africa is warm but gentle now. The sky glows in soft shades of amber and rose. Somewhere in the distance, drums beat faintly, not in alarm, but in rhythm like heartbeat. As Sundiata grew into adulthood, the small kingdoms of the region were like scattered seeds across the savannah. Each village had its own leader. Each town followed its own traditions. Life was peaceful at times, uncertain at others. But we will not dwell on conflict tonight. Instead, imagine the feeling of communities slowly coming together like streams, joining into one calm river. Sundiata became known not for loud displays of power, but for patience and careful listening. Leaders from neighboring lands would gather beneath large baobab trees, sitting in circles on woven mats. They spoke for hours. They shared concerns about trade, routes, harvests, and the safety of travelers. These meetings were quiet and deliberate. The Sahara Desert to the north remained vast and still, but across it traveled caravans carrying salt, cloth, and gold. Gold dust from West Africa was highly valued in distant lands. It shimmered softly in small leather pouches, traded carefully by merchants who measured each grain with respect. Under Sundiata's guidance, trade became more organized. Roads were protected. Markets were encouraged. Instead of chaos, there was structure, gentle, steady structure. Villages that once stood alone began to see the benefit of unity. Farmers could sell their crops safely. Traders could move goods without fear. Families could travel between towns with greater ease. It did not happen overnight. It unfolded like a long sunrise. The empire of Mali slowly took shape, not as a harsh force, but as a wide umbrella offering stability. Communities kept their traditions. Griots continued to sing their histories. Blacksmiths still shaped tools by hand. But now there was a larger sense of belonging. In the evenings, fires glowed outside homes made of clay and wood. Children listened to elders describe how different. Clans had joined together under one guiding ruler. The story was not told with sharp edges, but with pride and calm certainty. The baobab trees stood witness to these changes. Their thick trunks and spreading branches shaded generations. Under their quiet presence, agreements were made and promises spoken. And so Molly began to grow. Not with a roar, but with steady footsteps across warm earth. Now, let your shoulders soften. The empire of Molly has begun to stretch gently across the savannah. The river flows wider. The trade routes grow steadier. And in the northern reaches of this land, near the edge of the Great Sahara, a city begins to glow quietly beneath the sun. Its name is Timbuktu. Not loud, not dramatic, just a meeting place of sand and river. Timbuktu began as a small settlement near the Niger River, where desert traders would pause before crossing the endless dunes. Camels rested here. Merchants unloaded salt slabs from the north and prepared gold dust from the south. The air was dry, but filled with calm purpose. Imagine arriving at dawn. The sky is pale blue. The desert wind moves slowly across smooth sand. Mud brick buildings rise from the earth, shaped by hand, rounded and strong. Their walls are the same warm color as the ground beneath them, so that the city seems to grow naturally from the land. Markets open gradually. Cloth-dyed deep indigo hangs gently from wooden beams. Bowls of dates and grain sit neatly arranged. Gold dust is weighed carefully on small scales. No rushing, just quiet exchanges, respectful nods, soft bargaining. But Timbuktu became known for something even more peaceful than trade. It became a city of learning. Scholars traveled here from distant lands, from North Africa, from Cairo, from places far beyond the desert. They came not for wealth, but for knowledge. Small schools and study circles formed inside mosques and courtyards. Students sat cross-legged on woven mats. Teachers spoke slowly, reading from handwritten manuscripts. The pages were made from fine paper, carefully preserved in leather covers. Subjects included mathematics, astronomy, poetry, law, and philosophy. At night, oil lamps flickered softly inside quiet rooms. Scholars copied texts by hand, dipping reed pens into ink. Outside, the desert wind whispered against the walls. There is something deeply calming about a city devoted to thought. No shouting crowds. No towering stone monuments. Just learning, discussion, and the slow turning of pages. The great mosque of Jingaba stood proudly yet humbly, built from earth and wood. Its wooden beams extended outward from the walls, casting gentle shadows in the afternoon sun. It was strong but fell like part of the land itself. Timbuktu became a symbol of stability within Mali, a place where ideas traveled as freely as goods, a city where gold and knowledge shared the same quiet streets. And as night settles over the desert now, imagine the stars appearing one by one above the city. The air cools, the markets empty, the scholars close their manuscripts. The empire rests peacefully. The city of Timbuktu rests beneath the wide African sky. The markets are steady, the scholars are patient. And the Niger River continues its calm journey through the empire. And now, without hurry, we meet a man whose name would travel far beyond these warm lands. He was called Mansa Musa. The word Mansa means king. But tonight we will not picture him surrounded by spectacle or shining gold. Instead, imagine a thoughtful ruler rising before dawn inside a cool clay palace courtyard. The walls are smooth and earth-toned. The air is quiet, still touched by night. A servant lights a small oil lamp. Birds begin to stir in nearby trees. Mansa Musa's mornings were said to begin with reflection and prayer. The Mali Empire was deeply connected to Islam by this time, and faith was part of daily life. But even beyond religion, his rule was marked by order and care. He governed an empire that stretched across trade routes and rivers, across farmland and desert edges. And ruling such a land required attention, not loud commands, but steady decisions. Messengers would arrive in the mornings, carrying reports from distant towns. They brought news of harvests, of trade caravans, of small disputes needing gentle resolution. Gold flowed through Mali during his reign. The land was rich with it. Yet gold was handled with care. It was measured slowly, weighed with balanced scales. Stored in leather pouches, traded thoughtfully. In the palace courtyards, scribes would sit cross-legged, recording accounts on parchment. There, reed pens moved in smooth strokes. No rush, just quiet documentation of an empire functioning steadily. Mansa Musa is often remembered for a long journey. He made across the Sahara to Mecca, but tonight we do not focus on the grandeur of that pilgrimage. Instead, imagine the rhythm of preparation. Camels gathered patiently in shaded areas. Water supplies checked carefully. Food packed in woven baskets. Cloth wrapped neatly. Everything organized with calm precision. He was not only a ruler of wealth, but a supporter of learning. During his reign, more mosques were built. Schools expanded. Scholars were welcomed warmly. Timbuktu grew even brighter, not with noise, but with manuscripts. In the evenings, Mansa Musa may have walked through palace gardens planted with shade trees. Perhaps he listened to griots softly recount the lineage of kings before him. Perhaps he reflected on the responsibility of guiding so many people across such a wide land. There is something deeply soothing about steady leadership. Buiten ons bad in Risemkies, the Niger River continues to flow outside the city walls. Traders move gently through markets. Scholars copy texts under lamplight. And under the calm reign of Mansa Musa, Mali reached a quiet golden age. Not loud, not hurried, just steady and warm and wide as the land itself. The palace courtyard fades gently behind us, and we step outward into the wide and open land. The morning sun rises slowly over the edge of the Sahara Desert. Its light is pale at first, touching the sand with a soft glow. A caravan is preparing to move. Not quickly, not urgent, just steady. Rows of camels kneel patiently in the sand. There, long shadows stretch across the dunes. Bundles of goods are tied carefully to their backs. Salt slabs cut from desert mines. Folded cloth, leather pouches, water skins filled at the river. Travel across the Sahara required patience above all else. The desert is vast, but it is not loud. It is quiet in a way that feels endless. Wind moves gently across the dunes, reshaping them grain by grain. The sky above is wide and open, a soft blue dome that seems to go on forever. Caravan leaders knew the stars well. At night, they navigated by constellations that shimmered clearly in the dry air. During the day, They followed familiar paths passed down through memory and experience. The journey from Mali to North Africa could take months, but there was no rushing it. Each morning began before the sun grew too strong. The travellers would wake from woven mats laid upon the sand. A small fire might be lit to warm simple food, dates, grain, water shared carefully. Then, slowly, the caravan would rise and begin walking. The rhythm of camel hooves on sand is gentle and steady. Step after step, mile after mile. These journeys connected Mali to distant lands, to cities like Cairo and beyond. Gold travelled north. Salt travelled south. Ideas travelled both ways. Along the way, travellers would stop at desert oases. Small clusters of palm trees appeared like green islands in a sea of sand. Water pools shimmered beneath their shade. Camels drank quietly. Travellers rested in silence. There is something deeply calming about imagining such movement. Not hurried highways, but slow crossings guided by memory and sky. Mansa Musa's famous pilgrimage once followed these desert paths. Yet, even then the journey unfolded in long, quiet stages. Camels swaying gently, sand shifting softly beneath their feet. The Sahara was not an obstacle alone. It was a bridge, a wide, silent bridge connecting cultures. As the sun sets now in our imagination, the caravan pauses once more. The dunes glow golden, then orange, then soft purple as twilight settles in. A fire crackles lightly. The travellers look up at a sky filled with stars more than most of us see today. And beneath that endless sky, Molly's story continues to travel. Now, let the desert winds fade behind us. We return from the wide Sahara to the softer green edges of the Niger. River, the dunes disappear, replaced by tall grasses and fertile soil. The air feels warmer here, heavier with the scent of earth and water. It is early morning in a small village within the Mali Empire. The sun rises slowly, spreading gentle light across mud brick homes. These houses are built by hand, shaped from clay mixed with straw, dried beneath the African sun. Their rounded walls feel cool inside, protecting families from the heat of the day. A rooster calls softly. A mother steps outside, tying a wrap of indigo cloth around her shoulders. She carries a clay pot toward the riverbank. The path is smooth from years of footsteps. Other villagers walk beside her, greeting one another quietly. Children follow, still sleepy, balancing smaller pots with careful hands. At the river, the water flows calmly. It reflects the pale sky like polished glass. Women fill their containers and pause for a moment of conversation, soft laughter, gentle storytelling, simple updates about crops and weather. Back in the village, men prepare tools for the fields. Wooden hoes rest against the walls. Iron tips, shaped by the local blacksmith, glint faintly in the sunlight. Farming is steady work, guided by seasons and river levels. Millet and sorghum sway lightly in the breeze. Rice grows in wetter patches closer to the water. Each crop has its rhythm. Each family knows when to plant and when to harvest. The blacksmith's workshop sits near the center of the village. His small furnace glows orange. He works slowly, shaping metal into farming tools, cooking pots, and decorative items. The sound of tapping iron is calm and measured. Nearby, a weaver sits beneath shade, threading cotton into cloth. Indigo dye stains her fingers a deep blue. She hums softly as the loom clicks back and forth. There is no rush. Midday arrives gently. The sun grows stronger, and villagers retreat indoors or beneath trees to rest. Meals are simple grain, porridge, vegetables, perhaps dried fish from the river. Children play in the shade, drawing patterns in the dust with sticks. Elders sit nearby, watching patiently. In the afternoon, traders may pass through. They carry small goods, beads, salt pieces, woven baskets. Exchanges happen slowly, built on trust and familiarity. As evening falls, smoke rises from cooking fires. The air cools. Families gather outside their homes. Someone begins telling a story, perhaps about Sundiata, perhaps about Mansa Musa, perhaps about ancestors long gone. The griot's voice is low and steady. The stars appear overhead, one by one. This is the heart of the Mali Empire. Not just kings and caravans, but ordinary days. Shared meals, and the steady flow of the river beside them. Let yourself rest in that image now, a village, glowing softly beneath the African night. The village fades gently behind us, and we return to Timbuktu, not to its markets this time, but to its quieter corners. It is late afternoon. The desert sun is softer now, casting long golden light across the city's mud brick walls. Inside one of the great mosques, the air is cool and still. Here, there is a different kind of treasure. Not gold, but pages. Students sit in small circles on woven mats. Their robes are simple, flowing cotton in shades of white, beige, and indigo. A teacher sits before them, holding a manuscript written carefully in ink. His voice is low and steady. He reads slowly, pausing between lines so the students can repeat the words. Some lessons are about mathematics, careful numbers written in neat columns. Others are about astronomy, describing the movement of stars across the desert sky. Some speak of law, ethics, or poetry. Outside, the city hums softly with trade. But here, inside these walls, there is only calm concentration. The manuscripts themselves are precious. Many were copied by hand, sometimes illuminated with delicate patterns along the margins. The paper is smooth, sometimes imported from distant lands. The covers are made of leather, stitched carefully. In private homes across Timbuktu, families store collections of these texts. Shelves line cool interior rooms. Manuscripts are wrapped in cloth to protect them from dust. They are passed down from generation to generation. Knowledge, here, is a quiet inheritance. At night, oil lamps flicker gently. A scholar sits cross-legged, reed pen in hand, dipping it into ink. He copies a text slowly, carefully forming each letter. Outside, the desert wind brushes lightly against the walls. There is no urgency, just patience. Timbuktu became known across Africa and beyond as a center of learning. Travelers spoke of its schools with respect. Students journeyed across the Sahara to study here, bringing new ideas and carrying others home again. Imagine the feeling of those evenings, the soft scratch of pen on paper, the faint glow of lamplight, the steady breathing of a city at rest. The Mali Empire was wealthy in gold, yes, but it was also wealthy in thought, in quiet study, in shared understanding. As the stars brighten above Timbuktu tonight, the scholars close their books. They wrap them gently in cloth and place them carefully on wooden shelves. The lamps are extinguished one by one, and the city settles into silence. Now, allow the quiet study rooms of Timbuktu to fade softly away. Night has arrived across the Mali Empire. The heat of the day has lifted, replaced by a gentle coolness that settles over villages and cities alike. Above, the sky stretches endlessly, filled with bright stars untouched by modern lights. This is the time when communities gather, not for urgency, not for work, but for connection. In a village courtyard, a small fire glows warmly. Families sit in a circle on woven mats. The flickering light paints soft shadows across mud brick walls. The smell of cooking grains and roasted vegetables lingers in the air. Someone begins to play music. The instrument is a kora, a beautiful stringed instrument, made from a calabash gourd and long wooden neck. Its sound is gentle and flowing, like water moving over smooth stones. Each note drifts slowly into the night. Music in the Mali Empire was not loud entertainment. It was storytelling. The griot, keeper of memory, sits near the fire. He adjusts the strings and begins to sing in a calm, steady voice. His songs carry histories, names of ancestors, lessons from the past, stories of kindness, wisdom, and endurance. Children lean closer, listening carefully. The griot's role was deeply respected. Without written records in earlier generations, history lived through sound. Every word was remembered, repeated, and passed forward like a treasured gift. Nearby, elders nod gently, sometimes adding small details or correcting a name with quiet laughter. The stories were shared ownership belonging to everyone present. Women clap softly in rhythm. Some people sway gently to the music. There is no stage, no audience separate from performers. Everyone belongs to the moment together. Festivals throughout the year followed similar rhythms. They celebrated harvests, marriages, and seasonal changes. Brightly dyed fabrics appeared in deep blues, warm reds, and golden yellows. Food was shared freely, prepared slowly over open fires. But even celebrations remained calm compared to modern gatherings. There was space for silence between songs, space for watching the stars, space for simply being together. As the evening grows later, the music becomes softer. Conversations fade into murmurs. Children grow sleepy, resting against their parents. The fire burns lower. The griot's final story slows, his voice becoming almost like a lullaby, steady, reassuring, familiar. And across the Mali Empire, in countless villages and towns, nights ended this way. With music, with memory, with gentle voices beneath the stars. The desert night has faded behind us, and the sun rises gently over Timbuktu and nearby villages. The air carries the soft scent of dust, river water, and drying clay. Slowly, the day begins. At the heart of the city, the market wakes in its own unhurried rhythm. Stalls are made of woven mats and wooden poles. Merchants arrange their goods carefully, neatly stacked salt blocks. Folded cloth in deep indigo and beige, small bags of gold dust. Dried fruits, grains, and pottery. Each item is placed thoughtfully, inviting visitors without rush. Villagers arrive gradually. Farmers bring fresh produce from the riverbanks. Traders walk slowly, balancing leather pouches or carrying baskets on their heads. Everyone greets each other gently. sharing small pleasantries before beginning the day's quiet exchanges. Bartering is calm and deliberate. No shouting. Each negotiation is measured, polite. The rhythm is almost musical, the subtle swapping of goods. The soft clink of coins, the careful unfolding of cloth. It is ordens familiar. Camels rest at the edge of the market, waiting patiently with salt or textiles tied to their backs. Merchants check the bundles gently, adjusting ropes and cloth to prevent discomfort for the animals. Water is offered in clay pots. Travellers drink slowly, savouring the cool refreshment. Nearby, children follow parents, observing quietly. Some imitate the merchants, arranging small piles of pebbles or sticks as pretend coins. Others chase one another softly around stalls, their laughter low and unhurried, blending with the gentle hum of activity. In the shade of a nearby baobab tree, a griot sits quietly with a small crowd. He tells stories of distant lands, of other merchants who have travelled across the desert, of rivers far away. His voice is steady, his tales flowing like the Niger River. People listen between their tasks, savouring both story and sunlight. Even in bustling trade, the Mali Empire thrives in calm order. The exchange of goods connects villages and cities. Salt, gold, and cloth travel slowly but surely across the empire. Every transaction strengthens the network of communities, all moving in quiet harmony. As noon approaches, the sun warms the earth. The market slows. Merchants pause beneath cloth canopies. Shaded areas under mud brick arches provide refuge. Food is shared slowly, millet porridge, roasted grains, dried fish, and sweet dates. Conversation is low, gentle, and steady. The day continues in measured rhythm. Travellers prepare for onward journeys. Camels are saddled carefully. Traders pack their goods. The market hums faintly before quieting into calm afternoon stillness. And, as you imagine this serene morning, notice the subtle motions, the sway of hanging cloth, the soft shuffle of sand under sandal, the glint of sun on gold dust, the distant ripple of the Niger River. This is the Mali Empire at work. Not hurried, not chaotic, but alive in its quiet, steady way. The market fades behind us now. The sounds of trade soften into the distance. We walk away from the city walls and toward something even older than Mali itself. The Niger River. It moves calmly through the land, wide and patient. Its waters shimmer under the afternoon sun, reflecting clouds that drift slowly overhead. Long before the Mali Empire rose, this river shaped the lives of those who lived beside it. And during Mali's golden age, it remained the quiet heart of daily life. Along the riverbanks, fishermen prepare their narrow wooden boats. These boats are carved by hand from large tree trunks, smoothed carefully over many days. Their surfaces show the marks of tools and time. The fishermen push their boats gently into the water. There is no rush. The river carries them softly as they cast woven nets into its surface. The nets sink slowly, spreading wide beneath the ripples. Birds glide low across the water. Tall grasses sway in the warm breeze. In the distance, cattle drink from shallow edges while herders stand nearby, watching calmly. Fishing is steady work. The men wait patiently, feeling for subtle movements in the nets. Sometimes they speak in low voices. Sometimes they sit in silence. listening to water lap gently against the sides of their boats. When they return to shore, their catch is sorted carefully. Fish are laid out in neat rows. Some will be cooked fresh over evening fires. Others will be dried in the sun to preserve them for later days. Nearby, women wash clothes at the river's edge. They kneel on smooth stones, dipping fabric into the water and pressing it rhythmically. Indigo-dyed cloth darkens as it absorbs moisture, then brightens again in the sun. Children splash quietly in shallow pools, there laughter soft and easy. The Niger River is more than water. It is movement. It is connection. Goods travel along it in canoes, grain, pottery, cloth. Messages move with its current. Villages along its banks share customs and stories linked by this steady flow. In the late afternoon, as the sun lowers toward the horizon, the river turns golden. Light dances across its surface in gentle patterns. Boats glide homeward. Cooking fires begin to rise once more in riverside villages. The scent of grilled fish drifts into the evening air. Families gather beneath shade trees to share meals and conversation. The river continues flowing through it all, unchanged by markets, kings, or caravans. As you rest now, imagine sitting quietly at its edge. Feel the warm earth beneath you. Hear the soft ripple of water. Watch as the sky slowly shifts from gold to soft purple. The Mali Empire thrived because of golden trade, but it endured because of simple rhythms like these. See river, boats, and the quiet patience of those who lived beside it. We are still beside the Niger River, but now we lift our eyes toward the cities that rose along its banks. From a distance, they do not appear sharp or towering. They seem to rise softly from the land itself, shaped from the same earth beneath them. The architecture of the Mali Empire was not built from cold stone or shining marble. It was built from clay. Mud brick structures formed by mixing earth, water, and straw were shaped by hand and left to dry under the sun. Each brick carried the warmth of the land within it. The walls were thick, keeping interiors cool during the heat of the day and warm during the night. In cities like Timbuktu and Jen, buildings had rounded edges and smooth surfaces. Wooden beams extended outward from the walls, not only for strength, but also as footholds for future repairs. Communities gathered to reapply fresh mud plaster to their mosques and homes. This yearly maintenance was not seen as a burden. It was a celebration. Villagers worked together, laughing gently as they smoothed wet clay across walls. Children helped carry small buckets of mud. The sun shone brightly above, and the scent of damp earth filled the air. The Great Mosque of Jen stood as one of the most remarkable examples of this style. Its tall towers rose gracefully, decorated with wooden beams that cast soft shadows. Yet even this grand structure felt organic, like a living part of the landscape. Inside these buildings, light filtered gently through small openings. The air remained cool and quiet. Courtyards provided space for gathering, study, and reflection. Shade trees were planted carefully to soften the midday sun. Homes were arranged around family courtyards. Rooms opened inward rather than outward, creating private spaces protected from the busy streets. Life unfolded at a calm pace within these earthen walls. In the evenings, lanterns glowed softly through small windows. From outside, cities looked like clusters of warm light against the deep blue night. There is something deeply peaceful. about architecture that blends with nature rather than dominating it. Nothing here feels sharp or aggressive. Everything feels rounded, soft, connected to the soil. As you imagine walking through one of these cities, feel the texture of cool clay beneath your fingertips. Notice the gentle curves of walls. Hear the soft footsteps of sandals against packed earth streets. The Mali Empire did not rise in glittering towers. It rose in harmony with the land. And as the sun slowly sets behind these earthen buildings, their surfaces glow golden for a brief, beautiful moment before fading into calm twilight. Let that warm glow settle in your mind now. Take another slow breath and allow the warm glow of those earthen cities to soften. Empires, like rivers, do not remain exactly the same forever. They widen. They narrow. They change their course gently over time. After the long and steady reign of Mansa Musa, the Mali Empire continued for many years. Trade still flowed. Scholars still studied. Farmers still planted and harvested along the Niger. But time moves quietly. Leadership passed from one ruler to another. Some governed with patience and care. Others struggled to maintain the same balance. The vast distances of the empire made unity delicate, like a woven cloth that must be tended carefully to keep from loosening. There was no single loud moment when everything changed. Instead, shifts happened slowly. Trade routes began to adjust. Some merchants chose new paths across the desert. Neighboring kingdoms grew stronger in certain regions. Authority, once centered firmly, gradually became more spread out. In distant towns, local leaders handled matters more independently. Villagers continued their daily routines much as before. Farmers still rose at dawn. Fishermen still cast their nets. Griots still sang beneath the stars. For ordinary people, life did not suddenly become unrecognizable. It simply continued. This is often how history unfolds, not in dramatic endings, but in gradual transitions. The great cities of Mali did not disappear overnight. Timbuktu remained a center of learning for generations. Manuscripts were still copied. Mosques were still maintained, with fresh layers of clay each year. But the wide umbrella of empire grew lighter. Like footprints in sand, political power slowly shifted, shaped by forces both near and far. And yet, something important remained. Culture, memory. The manned traditions endured beyond borders and rulers. Stories of Sundiata continued to be sung. The music of the Kora still floated across evening courtyards. The river still flowed, even as political strength softened. The spirit of Mali carried forward into new kingdoms, new communities, new generations. As you rest now, imagine the empire not fading into darkness, but gently transforming, like sunset turning into twilight. The colors shift. The light softens, but the land remains. The Niger River still moves patiently beneath the stars. Villages still glow with small cooking fires. Scholars still protect manuscripts within cool clay rooms. Empires may rise and settle, but the rhythms of daily life continue. And in those rhythms, the true story of Mali lives on. Let that thought settle gently in your mind, not as an ending, but as a quiet continuation. Now, let everything slow. The cities of clay rest quietly beneath the night. The markets are empty. The boats along the Niger are tied gently to wooden posts. The desert dunes beyond Timbuktu glow faintly under moonlight. There is no rush anymore. Only stillness. Imagine yourself sitting beside the Niger River one last time. The water moves in a steady, unbroken rhythm. It has flowed through every part of this story, through villages, past markets, beside mosques, under the watch of kings. The river does not hurry. It simply continues. Across the land of the Mali Empire, small fires flicker in courtyards. Families sleep within cool mud-brick homes. Manuscripts rest quietly on wooden shelves wrapped in cloth. Camels kneel peacefully beneath the stars. Somewhere, perhaps a griot's final notes fade into the night. The chorus strings grow silent. The stories have been told, carried gently across centuries, and now they settle like soft dust upon the earth. Sundiota's patience, Mansa Musa's steady rule, the scholars of Timbuktu, the fishermen of the Niger, the farmers, the weavers, the traders, all part of a world that moved slowly, thoughtfully, calmly. The Mali Empire was not only about gold. It was about rhythm, about community, about living in harmony with river, sand, and sky. As you there now, let your breathing match the river Sekunde's steady flow. Inhale softly. Exhale slowly. Feel the warmth of sun-baked earth beneath your imagination. Hear the distant whisper of desert wind. See the wide African sky filled with stars, clear and endless. History does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. And tonight it has whispered the gentle story of Mali to you. There is nothing more you need to hold on to. The river continues. The stars remain. The land rests, and you can rest too. Let the last image be simple. A quiet river under moonlight, moving steadily through warm earth, carrying with it centuries of calm memory. Drift now, slowly, softly. Before we begin tonight's quiet journey into history, take a slow breath in and let it out slowly. Allow your body to relax. Let the noise of the day slowly fade away. Tonight we will travel back in time, more than 1,000 years, to a peaceful evening in the great city of Constantinople, the shining capital of the Byzantine Empire. But instead of battles or grand events, we will explore something far gentler. We will wander through the quiet, everyday moments of the people who lived there. Bays, the fishermen, the children playing in narrow streets, the families sharing simple meals as the evening lamps begin to glow. So imagine yourself standing on a small hill overlooking the city. The sun is slowly setting over the water. The sea beside the city, which people today call the Bosphorus, glimmers softly in the golden light. Ships drift quietly in the harbour, their sails folded after a long day of travel. Many have arrived from distant lands, Egypt, Syria, Greece, and beyond, carrying spices, grain, silk, and stories from faraway places. Down below, the streets of Constantinople wind like gentle rivers between rows of houses. The buildings are made from stone and brick, many painted in warm shades of red and cream. Some homes are simple. Others are tall apartment buildings where many families live together. The city is alive, but calm. A baker pulls the last round loaves from his oven. Warm bread was one of the most important foods in Byzantine life, and the smell of it drifts softly along the street. Nearby, children laugh as they splash water from a marble fountain. Fresh water flows constantly through the city, thanks. 2 long aqueducts that stretch across the hills. One of the largest of these is the Valens Aqueduct, carrying water high above the streets, before it pours gently into fountains and baths. As evening grows closer, merchants slowly close their stalls. A man selling olives ties cloth over his baskets. A woman folds colourful wool fabrics inside a wooden chest. And high above the rooftops, the massive dome of Hagia Sophia glows softly in the warm light of the setting sun. Its golden dome watches over the city like a quiet guardian. But tonight, we are not rushing anywhere. Instead, we will walk slowly through these ancient streets, listening to the soft sounds of daily life in the Byzantine world. And as the sky gently darkens above Constantinople, the city begins to settle into the calm rhythm of evening, just as your own mind may begin to slow. As our story quietly unfolds, the night slowly passes over the city of Constantinople. One by one, the stars fade from the sky. A pale blue light begins to spread across the rooftops, and the quiet streets gently wake from their sleep. Morning in the Byzantine capital does not arrive suddenly. It comes softly. A rooster calls somewhere behind a row of houses. The first baker in the neighborhood lights his oven. A faint smell of warm bread begins drifting through the cool air. Soon, people begin stepping out into the streets. Some carry baskets. Others bring small carts or clay jars. They are all walking toward one of the busiest places in the city, the market. Markets were the heart of everyday life in the Byzantine Empire. Nearly every neighborhood had one, filled with traders selling food, tools, cloth, and many other simple goods. As you walk closer, the quiet street slowly fills with gentle sounds. Wooden shutters open. A merchant sweeps dust from the front of his stall. Another arranges neat piles of olives inside wide clay bowls. Soon the market begins to look colourful and lively. Bright vegetables sit in woven baskets, onions, beans, cucumbers, and leafy greens brought in from farms outside the city walls. A fisherman arrives carrying fresh fish wrapped carefully in damp cloth. The sea is never far from Constantinople, and seafood was a common part of many meals. Nearby, a woman pours honey from a clay jar into smaller pots. Honey was the main sweet flavor in Byzantine cooking. Sugar was rare, but honey was plentiful. The smell of warm bread grows stronger. A young boy carries a tray of round loaves from the nearby bakery. The crusts are golden and slightly cracked from the heat of the oven. People greet each other with calm smiles. Some pause to talk quietly about family news, or about a ship that arrived yesterday from distant lands. Trade connected Constantinople to many parts of the world. Silk might arrive from the east, fine glass from Syria, spices from far beyond the Mediterranean. But most of what you see in this market is simple. Food for the day. Fresh vegetables. Bread still warm from the oven. Above the market streets, tall stone buildings lean slightly toward each other, casting cool shadows that make the morning air pleasant. And in the distance, the shining dome of Hagia Sophia rises above the city, catching the first golden light of the sun. But the people in the market are not thinking about monuments or history. They are thinking about breakfast, about preparing meals, about beginning another peaceful day in the great Byzantine city. The market grows busier, but never chaotic. Voices remain calm. Movements are steady. It is simply the quiet rhythm of daily life continuing, just as it has for generations. And as you imagine yourself walking slowly through these morning streets, you may feel the same gentle calm settling into your thoughts. The morning market slowly fades behind us as we walk through. Another quiet street in Constantinople. The sun is now higher in the sky, warming the stone walls of the city. People continue their daily routines, moving calmly between shops, workshops, and homes. Let us step inside one of those homes. Many families in the Byzantine Empire lived in tall buildings that rose several floors high. From the outside, these homes often looked simple, walls made from brick and stone, small wooden balconies, and narrow windows designed to keep the inside cool. Inside, the rooms feel peaceful and comfortable. The floors are often covered with simple woven rugs. Clay lamps sit on small shelves along the walls. Sunlight enters through a narrow window, forming soft golden shapes on the floor. In the center of the room stands a wooden table. A mother is preparing the family's morning meal. She slices bread that was purchased earlier from the market. A bowl of olives sits nearby, along with soft white cheese and a small clay jar filled with honey. Meals in Byzantine homes were usually simple but nourishing. Bread was almost always present. It was often eaten with vegetables, beans, fish, or cheese. Wealthier families might add spices or meat, but many meals remained modest and comforting. In another corner of the room, a small child sits quietly beside a basket of wool. She watches her grandmother carefully spinning thread using a small spindle. The wool twists slowly into fine yarn that will later become cloth. Textile work like this was a common daily activity. Many families produced their own cloth at home, creating tunics, blankets, and other useful items. Outside the window, the street continues its quiet rhythm. A neighbor carries a clay water jug home from the nearby fountain. Another man passes by leading a donkey loaded with baskets. Inside the home, the family gathers around the table. The father has returned briefly from his morning work at the docks near the Bosphorus. Ships continue to arrive from distant parts of the empire, bringing grain, silk, and other goods to the busy capital. But for now, work pauses. The family shares their simple meal together. They speak quietly about the day ahead, small tasks, errands, and visits to neighbors. There is something comforting about these ordinary moments. Empires may be remembered for grand buildings and powerful rulers, but daily life was built from simple routines like this. Families sharing bread, grandparents teaching small skills, neighbors greeting each other in the street. As the sunlight continues moving across the room, the warm and peaceful rhythm of the home continues. And as you imagine sitting quietly in this gentle space, you may feel your thoughts becoming slower, calmer, just like the steady pace of life in this ancient city. The sun has now climbed higher above the rooftops of Constantinople. The streets are warm with daylight, and the gentle rhythm of work continues across the city. Merchants greet customers, craftsmen shape tools, and cooks prepare meals for the day. Among the most important workers in the Byzantine Empire were the bakers. Bread was at the center of daily life. Nearly every meal included it, and every neighborhood depended on its local bakery. Let us quietly step inside one of these bakeries. The building is small but warm. Thick stone walls hold the heat of a large clay oven built into the back of the room. The baker has already been awake for many hours. Long before sunrise, he arrived to begin his work. He carried sacks of flour into the bakery and poured them into a wide wooden trough. Then he slowly mixed the flour with water, yeast, and a little salt. With steady hands, he kneaded the dough again and again, folding and pressing it carefully until it became smooth and soft. Now the dough rests beneath a cloth, slowly rising in the warmth of the room. The bakery smells wonderful. A gentle scent of toasted grain and warm bread fills the air. It drifts through the open doorway and into the street outside, inviting people to stop and buy their daily loaf. Soon the baker begins shaping the dough into round loaves. Each one is placed carefully onto a wooden paddle before being slid deep into the glowing oven. Inside, the fire crackles softly as the bread begins to bake. While the loaves cook, customers begin to arrive. A woman carrying a basket waits patiently near the door. A young boy from a nearby home brings a few small coins to purchase bread for his family. The baker greets them with a quiet smile. Bakeries were not just places to buy food. They were small gathering places where neighbors exchanged greetings and small pieces of news about the city. Sometimes someone might speak about a ship arriving in the harbor. Other times they simply talk about the weather or the coming harvest. After a short while, the baker pulls the finished loaves from the oven. Their crusts are golden brown and slightly cracked from the heat. A small cloud of warm steam rises as they cool. He places them into baskets lined with cloth. Soon these loaves will travel across the neighborhood, carried home for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. In this quiet way, the baker plays a small but important role in the life of Constantinople. Every day he repeats the same careful routine: mixing dough, lighting the oven, baking bread. And though the work is simple, it helps feed an entire community. As the warm smell of bread continues drifting through the street, the calm rhythm of the bakery becomes part of the peaceful life of the city. And perhaps, as you imagine that soft warmth and steady routine, your own thoughts begin to feel just a little slower and more relaxed. The warm smell of fresh bread slowly fades behind. As we continue walking through the streets of Constantinople, the sun now sits comfortably in the sky, casting bright light across rooftops and courtyards. The city feels alive yet peaceful. In one quiet corner of the neighborhood, the sound of children's voices can be heard. Not loud or chaotic, just soft chatter and gentle laughter. Children in the Byzantine Empire lived lives that were both familiar and different from our own. Many spent part of their day helping their families. Some carried water from fountains. Others helped in shops or workshops. But many children also spent time learning to read and write. Let us step quietly into a small schoolroom. The building is simple. Its walls are made from stone and plaster, and sunlight enters through a narrow window, lighting the room with a calm glow. Inside, several children sit on wooden benches. In front of them stands their teacher, a calm and patient man holding a small wax tablet. In Byzantine schools, children often wrote on tablets covered with soft wax. using a pointed stylus to scratch letters into the surface. If a mistake was made, the wax could simply be smoothed flat again. This made learning feel slow and careful. The teacher softly reads lines from a book written in Greek. Greek was the main language spoken throughout the empire, and many lessons focused on reading famous writings from earlier centuries. Children repeat the words quietly together. Their voices rise and fall in a gentle rhythm, almost like a soft song. On a nearby table sit several scrolls and small manuscripts. Books were precious in the Byzantine world. Each one had to be copied by hand, often by skilled scribes working patiently for many hours. So every book was treated with care. The children continue practicing their letters. One child slowly traces the shapes of the Greek alphabet onto his wax tablet. Another reads aloud while the teacher nods calmly beside her. Learning was not rushed. Lessons moved slowly, giving students time to understand each word. Outside the school window, the life of the city continues. A donkey cart rolls past. Merchants call softly from nearby streets. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings from a church. And rising above the rooftops, the great dome of Hagia Sophia shines brightly in the midday sun. But inside the schoolroom, everything remains calm. The children continue writing. The teacher continues guiding them. And in this quiet space, knowledge passes gently from one generation to the next. These small lessons, letters, words, stories, help shape the future of the empire. But for now, it is simply another peaceful day of learning in the great city of Constantinople. And as you imagine the soft sound of children repeating their lessons, your own thoughts may begin to drift slowly and quietly. Just like their calm voices in the warm afternoon light, the schoolroom slowly grows quiet behind. As we step once again into the sunlit streets of Constantinople. The afternoon has begun. Warm sunlight rests gently on the stone roads, and a light breeze moves through the narrow alleys of the city. Not far away stands another important part of everyday life in the Byzantine Empire: the public baths. These bathhouses were not only places to wash. They were also places where people relaxed, talked with friends, and enjoyed a peaceful break from their daily work. Let us walk quietly inside. The entrance leads into a wide stone hall. The air here feels cool and calm. Marble floors stretch across the room, worn smooth by countless footsteps over many years. A few visitors move slowly through the building. Some carry small towels. Others bring bottles of scented oil. Bathing in Byzantine cities followed a gentle routine. First, visitors entered a warm room where the air helped the body relax. Soft steam drifted through the space, rising slowly toward the curved ceiling. Stone benches lined the walls. People sat quietly, talking in calm voices. Next came the warmer bath chambers. Here, large pools of heated water waited beneath high arches. The water was warmed by clever heating systems beneath the floors, a design inherited from earlier Roman builders. Visitors lowered themselves slowly into the warm pools. The water rippled gently as they moved. Some closed their eyes and simply rested. Others spoke softly with friends about their day, about work in the market, about family, about news arriving from distant ports. Bathhouses were peaceful social spaces. No van rush. People moved slowly from one room to another, enjoying the calm warmth and quiet conversation. Attendants walked quietly through the halls, adding wood to the furnaces that kept the water warm. Nearby, another room held cool pools where bathers refreshed themselves after leaving the warmer chambers. The entire bathhouse felt like a quiet world of its own. Outside, the busy city continued, ships arriving, merchants trading, children playing. But inside the baths, time seemed to move more slowly. Even the sound of water dripping from the stone walls felt calm and steady. As the afternoon light filtered softly through small windows near the ceiling, the bathhouse remained a place of gentle relaxation. And when visitors finally stepped back out into the streets of Constantinople, they carried that same quiet calm with them. The peaceful rhythm of bathing had refreshed both body and mind. Just as this quiet journey through history may be slowly calming your thoughts now. The warm glow of the afternoon bath fades gently behind us as we step once more into the soft streets of Constantinople. The sun sits high above the Bosphorus, casting sparkling light across the calm waters. Ships of all sizes float slowly, their sails furled after journeys from distant lands. The harbour is a gentle rhythm of movement. A boat rocks lightly against its moorings, a rope swings softly. The faint scrape of wooden hulls against the dock echoes quietly. Trade and travel were central to daily life in the Byzantine Empire. Yet, in this hour, the harbour feels almost like a small village. People walk calmly along the wooden piers. Sailors tie knots carefully, adjusting ropes with steady hands. Merchants check their goods quietly, sacks of grain, crates of dried fish, bundles of textiles. A gentle breeze carries the faint scent of salt and olive oil. Somewhere nearby, a seagull glides just above the water, wings barely moving as it drifts lazily in the sunlight. At the edge of the pier, children watch the ships, pointing at painted hulls and decorative banners. Their voices are soft, curious, full of wonder, but never hurried. The slow pace of the harbour allows them to linger in these moments, learning quietly about the wider world through observation. Nearby, a small group of artisans unload barrels from a merchant ship. They work with careful precision, placing each barrel gently on the wooden dock. Inside the barrels are olive oil, honey, and small trinkets for local shops. The sound of their work, soft thuds and muted clanks, becomes part of the calm chorus of harbour life. Beyond the docks, fishermen bring in the day's catch. Their nets are heavy with fish, but their movements remain measured and unhurried. They chat quietly with neighbours as they carry baskets toward nearby homes or market stalls. Trade routes may stretch across the Mediterranean. But the everyday life of the harbour in Constantinople is a gentle, slow rhythm. Nothing is rushed. Every task is done with care, every movement considered. As the afternoon light softens, the great domes and towers of the city's skyline glow warmly in the sun. Hagia Sophia rises above all, its golden dome a calm, watchful presence over the harbour. And as you imagine yourself walking along the pier, feeling the gentle sway of ships beneath you, hearing the soft lapping of water and quiet voices of the city, you may notice a sense of calm settling in your own thoughts. The harbour, like the empire, moves slowly and steadily. Its rhythm carries history, trade, and daily life alike, teaching patience and quiet reflection. And in this slow, measured world, it is easy to allow your mind to drift, carried gently along with the calm waters of Constantinople's timeless harbour. The peaceful harbour slowly fades behind us as we walk deeper into the streets of Constantinople. The afternoon light has softened now. Long golden rays stretch across the city, touching rooftops, towers, and courtyards. And ahead of us rises one of the most remarkable buildings of the ancient world, Hagia Sophia. For the people of the Byzantine Empire, this enormous church was more than just a building. It was a place of quiet reflection, a place where daily life slowed down for a moment of calm. Let us step gently inside. The heavy wooden doors open slowly, and the sounds of the city fade away. Inside, the space feels vast and peaceful. High above, the enormous golden dome seems to float in the air. Sunlight enters through rows of tall windows at the base of the dome, filling the interior with a soft, glowing light. The floor beneath your feet is made of smooth marble. Each step echoes quietly across the open space. Visitors move slowly through the church. Some stand silently in prayer. Others walk calmly beneath the arches, admiring the shimmering mosaics that decorate the walls. These mosaics are made from thousands of tiny pieces of colored glass and gold. When the sunlight touches them, they sparkle gently like small stars. One mosaic shows peaceful religious figures dressed in flowing robes. Another shows scenes from ancient stories that the people of Constantinople had listened to for generations. But even beyond its beauty, Hagia Sophia feels calm. The air is cool and still. Soft voices drift through the hall, never loud, never hurried. A priest walks quietly across the marble floor carrying a small lamp filled with oil. The faint scent of incense lingers gently in the air. Nearby, a few visitors sit on stone benches along the wall. They rest peacefully, enjoying the quiet shelter of the great building. Outside, the city continues its daily rhythm, markets, ships, homes, and busy streets. But here inside Hagia Sophia, everything feels slower. The golden light moves gently across the marble floor as the sun lowers in the sky. Time itself seems softer within these walls. For centuries, people have come here seeking calm, reflection, and quiet thought. And perhaps, as you imagine standing beneath that vast golden dome, hearing only soft footsteps and distant whispers, you may feel the same peaceful stillness settling into your mind. Like the calm air inside Hagia Sophia, your thoughts can become quiet and gentle. After spending a quiet moment inside the great church, we slowly step back outside into the gentle evening air of Constantinople. The city feels slightly different now. The bright energy of the afternoon has softened, and a calm, golden light spreads across the streets. People are beginning to return to their homes after a long day of work. Stone streets glow softly beneath the lowering sun. Shopkeepers carefully close their wooden shutters, and the sounds of the market slowly fade into the background. If we walk through the narrow streets now, we begin to see another peaceful side of Byzantine life, the quiet rhythm of evening. Small houses line the streets, many built from stone and brick. Some homes have simple wooden balconies that lean slightly over the street below. From open windows, warm light spills out into the evening air. Inside these homes, families are preparing their evening meals. You might smell the comforting scent of fresh bread baking in clay ovens. Nearby, someone slowly stirs a pot of lentil stew over a small fire. Meals in the Byzantine world were often simple but warm and filling. Bread, olives, cheese, vegetables, and sometimes fish from the sea formed the heart of most dinners. Wealthier families might add roasted meats or sweet honey pastries. But for most people, The meal was less about luxury and more about gathering together after a long day. Inside a quiet courtyard, a family sits around a low wooden table. Oil lamps flicker softly as the evening sky slowly darkens. The father speaks calmly about the events of the day. A mother pours water into small clay cups. Children listen quietly while enjoying pieces of bread dipped in olive oil. There is no hurry. The pace of life in the Byzantine world followed the rhythm of the sun. And as the sun lowers beyond the distant hills, the entire city slowly prepares for rest. Along the streets, lanterns begin to glow. Their soft light reflects on stone, walls and worn pathways where thousands of footsteps have passed over the centuries. From far away, the faint sound of church bells drifts through the cool evening air. People pause for a moment, listening quietly before continuing home. And as night gently settles over Constantinople, the great city becomes calm once more. A peaceful silence slowly replaces the busy sounds of the day. Just like the quiet evening streets of this ancient city, your thoughts can begin to slow, softly, calmly. Night has now gently settled over the city of Constantinople. The sky above the great capital of the Byzantine Empire slowly turns deep blue, and small stars begin to appear one by one. The busy streets that were once filled with merchants, sailors, and travelers are now quiet and calm. A cool evening breeze moves softly through the narrow stone streets. Oil lamps hang beside doorways, their small flames flickering, gently and casting warm circles of light onto the walls. The shadows of balconies and rooftops stretch quietly across the ground. Most families are now inside their homes, resting after the long rhythm of the day. If we pause outside one of these homes, we might hear the soft sounds of evening life continuing within. Inside, a small oil lamp glows on a wooden table. Its light is warm and steady, illuminating the simple room. Clay bowls from dinner are stacked neatly to the side, and the comforting smell of bread and herbs still lingers in the air. Children sit quietly beside their parents, listening to gentle stories before bed. In the Byzantine world, storytelling was a peaceful and common tradition. Parents often told tales of ancient heroes, wise saints, distant lands, and old legends passed down through generations. These stories were not told loudly or dramatically. They were shared softly, in calm voices meant to soothe the mind after. Outside, the city continues to grow quieter. Even the great harbour rests now. The ships that once arrived with goods from distant places, Egypt, Syria, Greece, and beyond, rock slowly in the calm water beneath the moonlight. Wooden masts creak softly as the sea moves beneath them. Somewhere in the distance, a guard walks along the city wall, his footsteps slow and steady as he watches over the sleeping city. The enormous walls of Constantinople stand strong and silent in the night, protecting the people within. From far across the rooftops, the massive dome of Hagia Sophia rises into the dark sky. Under the pale glow of the moon, its shape looks calm and timeless, like it has quietly watched over the city for centuries. Within homes across Constantinople, oil lamps begin to dim. One by one, the lights fade as families drift into sleep. The great capital of the Byzantine Empire, once filled with movement and voices, now rests peacefully beneath the quiet night sky. And just as the ancient city slowly settles into rest, your mind can do the same. Let your thoughts grow softer, like the gentle night air drifting through the streets of Constantinople. As the quiet night continues across Constantinople, the city seems wrapped in a gentle blanket of calm. Most windows are now dark, and the narrow stone streets rest peacefully beneath the moonlight. Only a few oil lamps remain, glowing softly along the roads, their small flames moving slowly in the cool night breeze. Far away, the calm waters of the harbour reflect the silver light of the moon. Ships that travelled from distant parts of the Byzantine world now rest quietly at their docks. Their sails are folded neatly, and ropes tied securely to wooden posts. Occasionally, the gentle sound of water touching the hull of a ship breaks the silence. It is a soft and steady rhythm, almost like breathing. Along the harbour road, a single night watchman walks slowly with a lantern in his hand. His footsteps echo lightly against the stone pavement. The watchman's job is simple but important. Through the quiet hours of the night, he walks the streets to ensure that everything remains safe and peaceful. From time to time, he pauses, lifting the lantern slightly to look around. But the city remains calm. In the distance, the massive walls of Constantinople stand tall and silent. These famous walls protected the Byzantine capital for centuries. Built from layers of strong stone and brick, they stretch for many miles around the city. Even at night, they seem powerful and steep. Guards move quietly along the top of the walls, their figures barely visible against the dark sky. Their watch is slow and patient as the peaceful city sleeps below. Meanwhile, inside the homes of Constantinople, the night has grown very still. Families rest beneath woven blankets. The warmth of the day has faded, and the cool air of night fills the rooms. Somewhere in the darkness, a small candle flickers beside a bedside table, slowly burning lower as the hours pass. Outside, cats wander quietly through the alleys, exploring the silent city. Occasionally, they pause beside a doorway or leap lightly onto a stone wall before disappearing again into the shadows. Above the rooftops, the stars shine gently. People in the Byzantine world often looked to the stars with curiosity and wonder. Scholars and thinkers studied the movements of the heavens, believing the sky held secrets about time, seasons, and the rhythm of the world. But tonight, the stars simply glow quietly above the sleeping city. No crowds, no busy markets, no voices, only the peaceful stillness of night. And as the calm night stretches across Constantinople, the entire city seems to breathe slowly, just as the ships rock gently in the harbour, just as the quiet lantern light sways softly in the streets. Everything moves in a slow, peaceful rhythm. As the quiet night continues across Constantinople, the city seems wrapped in a gentle blanket of calm. Most windows are now dark, and the narrow stone streets rest peacefully beneath the moonlight. Only a few oil lamps remain, glowing softly along the roads, their small flames moving slowly in the cool night breeze. Far away, the calm waters of the harbour reflect the silver light of the moon. Ships that travelled from distant parts of the Byzantine world now rest quietly at their docks. Their sails are folded neatly, and ropes tied securely to wooden posts. Occasionally, the gentle sound of water touching the hull of a ship breaks the silence. It is a soft and steady rhythm, almost like breathing. Along the harbour road, a single night watchman walks slowly with a lantern in his hand. His footsteps echo lightly against the stone pavement. The watchman's job is simple but important. Through the quiet hours of the night, He walks the streets to ensure that everything remains safe and peaceful. From time to time, he pauses, lifting the lantern slightly to look around. But the city remains calm. In the distance, the massive walls of Constantinople stand tall and silent. These famous walls protected the Byzantine capital for centuries. Built from layers of strong stone and brick, they stretch for many miles around the city. Even at night, they seem powerful and steep. Guards move quietly along the top of the walls, their figures barely visible against the dark sky. Their watch is slow and patient as the peaceful city sleeps below. Meanwhile, inside the homes of Constantinople, the night has grown very still. Families rest beneath woven blankets. The warmth of the day has faded, and the cool air of night fills the rooms. Somewhere in the darkness, a small candle flickers beside a bedside table, slowly burning lower as the hours pass. Outside, cats wander quietly through the alleys, exploring the silent city. Occasionally, they pause beside a doorway or leap lightly onto a stone wall before disappearing again into the shadows. Above the rooftops, the stars shine gently. People in the Byzantine world often looked to the stars with curiosity and wonder. Scholars and thinkers studied the movements of the heavens, believing the sky held secrets about time, seasons, and the rhythm of the world. But tonight, the stars simply glow quietly above the sleeping city. No crowds, no busy markets, no voices, only the peaceful stillness of night. And as the calm night stretches across Constantinople, the entire city seems to breathe slowly, just as the ships rock gently in the harbor, just as the quiet lantern light sways softly in the streets. Everything moves in a slow, peaceful rhythm. As the gentle morning light spreads across Constantinople, the city slowly fills with quiet activity. The markets, which only moments ago were calm and nearly empty, now begin to welcome the first visitors of the day. People arrive at an easy, unhurried pace, carrying small woven baskets or simple cloth bags for their daily shopping. The marketplace is one of the most familiar places in the life of a Byzantine citizen. Here, neighbors greet each other with soft smiles and calm conversations. Many people have visited the same stalls for years, buying bread from the same baker or olives from the same farmer, who travels into the city each morning. The air fills with peaceful everyday sounds. Wooden carts roll slowly across the stone ground. Merchants gently arrange their goods, and the quiet murmur of voices rises like a soft background melody. One table is covered with fresh fruit brought from nearby farms. Figs, grapes, and pomegranates rest in woven baskets, their colors glowing softly in the morning sun. At another stall, a fish seller carefully places the morning's catch on a bed of crushed ice. The fish were caught only hours ago in the calm waters near the city shores. A nearby baker lifts warm loaves of bread from a large basket. Steam rises gently from the fresh bread, and the comforting smell spreads through the market. Bread, olives, cheese, and fruit form the simple daily meals of many families in Constantinople. Nothing overly fancy, just wholesome foods that have been part of life here for centuries. As the morning continues, more people arrive. A group of children walk past the stalls with curious eyes, pausing to look at colorful fabrics hanging from a merchant's display. These fabrics come from many parts of the Byzantine world. Some are soft cotton, others fine linen, and a few rare pieces of silk brought from distant lands along ancient trade routes. Nearby, an older man carefully examines a clay jar filled with golden honey. He lifts the lid slightly, letting the sweet scent drift into the cool morning air. Not far from the market square, small workshops also begin their daily work. A potter sits at a spinning wheel, shaping soft clay into bowls and cups with slow, steady hands. A blacksmith gently taps a piece of warm metal, the sound of hammer against iron echoing quietly through the street. Even the animals of the city join the calm morning rhythm. Donkeys pull small carts through the streets. Cats wander between market stalls, hoping for a small piece of fish. And pigeons gather along rooftops, cooing softly as they watch the busy square below. Above it all, the sky has now turned a peaceful shade of blue. The warm sunlight touches every corner of the city, the towers, the homes, the streets, and the markets where daily life continues. It is all gentle, familiar rhythm. The kind of rhythm that has repeated itself here for hundreds of years. Just like the calm flow of time in the great Byzantine city of Constantinople. As the morning continues to unfold across Constantinople, the warm sunlight begins to reach deeper into the streets and courtyards of the city. The marketplace remains gently busy, but life is not limited to the market alone. All around the city, people begin their quiet daily routines inside homes, workshops, and peaceful courtyards. Many Byzantine homes are built around small inner courtyards. These open spaces allow fresh air and sunlight to enter the house, creating a calm and comfortable place for families to gather. In one such courtyard, a woman slowly pours water from a clay jar into a large basin. The water sparkles briefly as it catches the morning light. Nearby, freshly washed clothes hang across a simple rope, moving softly in the gentle breeze. Children play quietly in the corner of the courtyard. Their laughter is soft and light, as they chase one another. Between the stone columns, one child rolls a small wooden hoop along the ground, while another carefully draws shapes in the dust with a stick. These small games have entertained children for centuries. Inside the homes, simple morning tasks continue. Clay bowls are arranged on wooden tables. Bread is sliced and shared among family members. A small jug of olive oil sits nearby, ready to be poured onto the bread for a simple but nourishing meal. In another part of the city, skilled artisans begin their careful work. A weaver sits beside a large wooden loom. Thread moves slowly between the stretched strings as the weaver patiently creates a piece of cloth. The gentle rhythm of the loom is steady and calming. Across the street, a book scribe prepares his tools for the day. He sits at a wooden desk beside a window where sunlight falls softly onto the table. In front of him lies a sheet of parchment made from carefully prepared animal skin. With slow, steady movements, he dips a thin feather quill into ink. Then he begins to write. Each letter is drawn carefully and beautifully. In the Byzantine world, books are rare and valuable, so scribes take great care to copy texts neatly and patiently. Sometimes they even decorate the pages with small colorful illustrations and golden details. Not far away, the sound of church bells begins to drift gently through the city. The bells ring slowly and calmly, inviting people to pause for a moment of quiet prayer or reflection. Some citizens stop briefly in the streets. Others continue walking, but lower their voices as the sound echoes through the air. Above the rooftops, the grand dome of Hagia Sophia shines softly in the sunlight, watching over the peaceful life of the city. By now, the morning has fully arrived. The cool air of dawn has warmed slightly, and a gentle breeze moves through the narrow streets. Constantinople continues its calm and steady rhythm. Families, workers, merchants, and children all moving through their day in quiet harmony. Nothing rushed, nothing loud, just the peaceful flow of everyday life in the Byzantine Empire. As the day continues in Constantinople, the sunlight slowly moves across the stone streets and tiled rooftops of the city. The morning activities have now settled into a calm and steady rhythm. People move from one task to another without hurry, following routines that have remained familiar for generations. In the workshops of the Byzantine Empire, artisans quietly focus on their crafts. In one small shop, a shoemaker sits on a wooden stool beside his workbench. Strips of leather are laid out neatly before him. With careful hands, he cuts and stitches the material to create strong sandals. That will last for many seasons. The sound of his tools is soft and rhythmic. The gentle pull of thread through leather. The quiet tap of a small hammer shaping the sole. Just across the street, another craftsman works with metal. The blacksmith's workshop is warm from the glow of a small furnace. He carefully heats a piece of iron before shaping it with steady strikes of his hammer. Sparks rise briefly into the air before fading. These tools he creates will be used by farmers, builders, and travelers throughout the city. Nearby, the streets remain peacefully active. A woman walks slowly past carrying a basket of vegetables, purchased from the morning market. Two neighbors pause beside a doorway to exchange quiet greetings. Even the animals seem relaxed in the midday warmth. A donkey rests beside a cart, its eyes half closed as it waits patiently for its owner. A small group of pigeons gathers along the edge of a rooftop, watching the movement below. In another corner of the city, the calm waters of the Bosphorus continue to sparkle under the sun. Fishing boats glide slowly across the water, their sails moving gently with the breeze. The sailors aboard work quietly, pulling in nets and guiding their boats along the familiar coastline. Back in the city, the soft sound of church bells once again drifts through the air. Their slow ringing reminds the people of Constantinople to pause for a moment of reflection in the middle of their busy day. Some people stop briefly to bow their heads. Others simply listen as the sound echoes across the rooftops. High above the city, the great dome of Hagia Sophia glows in the bright daylight. From almost anywhere in Constantinople, its golden shape can be seen rising above the homes and markets. For the people who live here, it is a familiar sight, a quiet symbol watching over their everyday lives. And as the afternoon slowly approaches, the calm and steady rhythm of the Byzantine city continues, just as it has for centuries. As the afternoon slowly arrives in Constantinople, the bright sunlight begins to soften. Long shadows stretch across the narrow streets, and the warm air of the day settles gently over the city. By this time, many people pause for a short rest. Daily life in the Byzantine Empire followed the rhythm of the sun. After the busy morning hours, the middle of the day was often a quieter moment, when work slowed and people took time to relax. In small homes and shaded courtyards, families gather for a simple midday meal. A wooden table might hold fresh bread, olives, a small dish of cheese, and perhaps a bowl of beans or lentils. Clay cups filled with cool water or diluted wine sit beside the plates. The meal is simple but comforting. Family members sit together calmly, speaking in soft voices about the events of the morning. Someone may mention a friend seen at the market, or news from a ship that arrived earlier at the harbour. Nearby, children sit cross-legged on the floor, dipping pieces of bread into olive oil. After eating, many people take a moment to rest. Inside the thick stone walls of Byzantine homes, the air remains cool even during the warm afternoon. Some people lie down briefly on simple beds or benches, while others sit quietly near a window where a gentle breeze can pass through. Outside, the streets grow slightly quieter. A few merchants remain at their stalls, but the busy movement of the morning has slowed. Even the animals seem to enjoy the peaceful pause of the afternoon. A donkey stands calmly beside a water trough. Pigeons rest along the edges of rooftops, their wings tucked neatly at their sides. Far away, the waters of the Bosphorus shimmer under the bright sky. Ships that arrived earlier now sit quietly at the harbour docks. Sailors rest in the shade of their vessels, while waiting for the cooler evening. Hours to continue their work. From time to time, a soft breeze moves through the city, carrying the distant scent of the sea. Above everything, the grand dome of Hagia Sophia reflects the afternoon sunlight. Its golden surface shines softly against the blue sky. For centuries, people living in Constantinople have looked up and seen that same peaceful sight. And as the afternoon continues to pass slowly over the city, the calm rhythm of everyday life continues, steady, gentle, and unhurried. As the afternoon slowly moves forward in Constantinople, the warmth of the sun begins to soften. A gentle breeze travels through the narrow streets, bringing with it the faint scent of the nearby sea. After their short rest, many people in the Byzantine Empire return quietly to their daily tasks. The markets begin to grow active again, though the pace remains calm and unhurried. Merchants stand beside their stalls, speaking politely with visitors who have come to purchase food for the evening meal. Baskets filled with figs, grapes, and olives sit neatly on wooden tables. Clay jars of honey and olive oil catch the warm afternoon light. A cloth merchant carefully unfolds a piece of colourful fabric, so a customer can see the fine weaving. The cloth moves softly in the breeze, showing its rich patterns. Not far away, a group of craftsmen continue their steady work. A carpenter shapes a piece of wood into a sturdy chair leg. His tools scrape gently against the wood, creating small curls that fall quietly onto the ground. Across the street, a potter spins his wheel slowly. The clay rises smoothly beneath his hands, forming a simple bowl that will soon be used in a nearby home. These small workshops are an important part of daily life in Constantinople. Many families depend on the careful work of artisans who create the everyday items. People use bowls, tools, clothing, and furniture. Meanwhile, along the streets, children begin to appear again after their afternoon rest. Some play simple games with wooden hoops, rolling them along the smooth stone pavement. Others gather near a fountain, splashing small amounts of water and laughing softly. Their voices echo gently through the quiet streets. Even the animals seem to enjoy the calm of the afternoon. Cats wander between market stalls, hoping to find a small scrap of food. Pigeons flutter down from rooftops, pecking at grains scattered on the ground. Above the city, the sky has turned a warm shade of gold as the sun begins its slow journey toward the horizon. The tall dome of Hagia Sophia reflects this golden light, shining peacefully above the rooftops. For the people of Constantinople, this part of the day feels familiar and comforting. Work continues gently. Neighbors greet one another kindly. Children play in the streets. And the great Byzantine city carries on with its steady, peaceful rhythm, just as it has for many generations. As the afternoon slowly fades in Constantinople, the sunlight begins to turn warmer and softer. The bright blue sky slowly changes into gentle shades of gold and pale orange. This is the quiet hour when many people begin preparing for the evening. In the streets of the Byzantine Empire, merchants carefully start packing their goods. Wooden stalls that were full of activity earlier in the day are slowly cleared. Baskets of fruit are lifted and carried away. Rolls of cloth are folded neatly and placed inside wooden chests. Clay jars are sealed and stored safely for tomorrow's market. The marketplace grows quieter, but the atmosphere remains calm and friendly. Neighbors pause to exchange a few final words before heading home. A merchant wishes his customers a peaceful evening. A farmer carefully leads his donkey through the street, guiding it slowly toward the city gate after a long day of selling vegetables. Meanwhile, in the nearby harbor along the Bosphorus, fishermen return from the water. Their small boats glide toward the wooden docks, moving gently across the calm sea. Nets are pulled in slowly, sometimes carrying the last fish of the day. The sailors work quietly, tying ropes and unloading baskets. Above the harbor, seabirds circle lazily in the evening sky. Back in the city streets, families begin returning home. A mother walks beside her child while carrying a small basket of bread and olives. A father follows close behind, bringing a clay jar of fresh water from a public fountain. Inside many homes, cooking fires are lit. Soft smoke rises slowly from small chimneys as simple evening meals are prepared. The comforting smell of warm bread, herbs, and vegetables drifts gently through the air. The streets grow calmer with each passing moment. Children finish their games and return indoors. Shop doors close quietly. Footsteps become fewer and softer. Above the rooftops, the great dome of Hagia Sophia catches the final light of the setting sun. For a brief moment, the golden surface glows brightly against the darkening sky. Then the light slowly fades. Another peaceful day in the great Byzantine city begins to come to an end. And as evening settles over Constantinople, the calm rhythm of daily life gently prepares to rest once more. Evening now settles gently over Constantinople. The warm colors of sunset slowly fade, and the sky turns a soft shade of deep blue. Across the city of the Byzantine Empire, small oil lamps begin to glow in windows and doorways. Their gentle light flickers against the stone walls, creating a peaceful and comforting atmosphere. Inside many homes, families gather together for their evening meals. A wooden table might hold a simple spread of food, fresh bread, olives, cheese, and a bowl of cooked vegetables. Sometimes there may also be fish from the harbor or a small dish flavored with herbs. The meals are quiet and relaxed. Family members speak softly about their day. A father may describe the work he completed at the market. A mother might talk about the tasks she finished at home. Children listen and share their own small stories, perhaps about a game played with friends or something interesting they saw in the streets earlier. These moments of conversation are calm and comforting. The soft light of oil lamps fills the room while shadows move gently along the walls. Outside, the streets become quieter with each passing minute. A few people still walk through the city, but most are returning home. Footsteps echo lightly on the stone pavement. From somewhere in the distance, the slow ringing of a church bell can be heard. The sound drifts peacefully across rooftops and courtyards. Nearby, the calm waters of the Bosphorus reflect the soft glow of the rising moon. Ships rest quietly at the docks, their masts swaying slightly in the night breeze. Above the entire city, the great dome of Hagia Sophia stands peacefully in the moonlight. Its enormous shape is darker now, but still clearly visible against the night sky. A silent guardian watching over the sleeping city. Inside homes, families begin finishing their meals. Clay bowls are stacked neatly. Oil lamps are adjusted to burn a little longer before bedtime. Children grow sleepy as the quiet evening continues. And slowly, gently, the busy life of Constantinople fades into a calm and peaceful night once again. So friends, that's all for today's story. I hope you liked the story. If you liked the story, then definitely give it a like and tell us which part of the story you liked the most. You can let us know in the comments section. Tomorrow, friends. Be well and stay healthy, just like today. Good night, everyone.